Okay, we are live.
I have to call them since they're doing this. So like when you do that from day one. No, nothing ever comes without a consequence. The cost coming. The stars align. Whatever step we stand strong. That's the price you pay. Leave behind your heart and cast away.
Okay. So today we're going to do a quick class about salt glaze stoneware pottery, how to identify it, and just a brief overview. So salt glaze pottery, history of it, the technique of salt glazing pottery began in Germany around 1400. Its popularity spread across Europe to England, making its way to the colonial Americas in the 1600s. Salt glaze pottery was the dominant domestic pottery in America from the 17th to the 19th century. Salt glaze or salt glaze pottery is usually stoneware with a glaze of glossy, translucent, slightly orange peel-like texture. That's the most easy way that you're going to be able to identify it, is the texture, and the glaze is going to be glossy, but not like super glossy, which was formed by throwing common salt into the kiln during the higher temperature part of the firing process. Sodium from the salt reacts with silicate in the clay body to form a glassy coating of sodium silicate. The glaze may be colorless or may be colored various shades of brown from the iron oxide, blue from cobalt oxide, or purple from manganese oxide. And these are just some very pretty early colonial examples. Most of the examples here are from the early 1800s through the Civil War era. And then in the 20th century, salt glaze saw a revitalization, a renaissance in the form of arts and crafts movement and Art Deco pottery by makers like Moorcroft. So in the 20th century, salt glaze pottery became popular in the art pottery community. Manufacturers such as Moorcroft and Rookwood brought the art of salt glaze pottery to new heights. In the Art Deco in the years to follow. In the latter part of the 20th century, salt glaze took on a more rustic turn, and we see salt glaze pottery today in pieces in the log cabin decor genre. And that is it for today. Just super sweet, simple, and quick. So these are some really nice examples that you guys will want to look out for when you're at estates. Any questions?
I've got some. So they started reproducing this in Germany. Did you talk about that?
Not the reproduction of. I just talked about the beginning.
If you ever get a chance to go to Colonial Williamsburg, you should go. There's some really nice examples there, in just different museums and things. But they started reproducing this in Germany. I mean, they've probably been reproducing it for a while, but it really got popular in the 80s and 90s. So you can find reproductions quite frequently. Matter of fact, most of what you find is a reproduction. It's nothing from the early 17th century, right? It's almost like, no, it's a piece of salt glaze pottery. It's still that, but it's not like a fake Rolex, where it's not even a Rolex. It's a watch. Yeah. That's about all you can say about it, if it's even that, right? But these pieces are still valuable. The big thing is most people don't even know that there is a difference. Like they just know salt glaze pottery and that's it. Like they've never seen an early piece. They even reproduced the age cracking, the crackling on the glaze itself. As a matter of fact, most of it shows the crackling. If you're about to ask me, well, how can you tell the difference? It's nearly impossible sometimes. It's not as simple as popping the back off the watch and taking a look at the inner workings to say immediately, oh yeah, that's definitely a fake Rolex. Some of the reproductions are just really, really good. So you just got to be careful, right? And lead lines are everything. The description of the piece is everything. If you call this a piece of early salt glazed pottery, Kelly, what does the word early mean to you?
That it would actually be
Like
real,
17th, 18th century potentially?
potentially.
What does the word
real.
early mean to you, Susie?
Same thing.
Maggie?
Like the beginning of when it was started being made.
James?
What she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would argue that that could just mean like 1970s. It was early. I mean, it could.
It could, but when you're thinking on an antique thing, you're thinking antique.
Now, did y'all hear what Susie said? That was pretty important what she just said. What you did is you added the word antique to my language. I didn't say anything about being antique. I just said early salt glazed pottery. All of you guys immediately went to antique when I said that. Everybody, not just Susie, everybody did. So you just got to be careful. If I just say piece of early salt glazed pottery and I think it's antique, okay, you need to go ahead and stand behind it. Go ahead and get brave and call it antique, early antique salt glazed pottery with a condition report.
The safest way to do that would that just be salt glazed pottery and leave it alone and let them decide.
Okay,
If you don't know.
we're going to go down. Does anybody have any questions? Then I'm going to stop this because we're going to go down the road of the table. Yes.
I see a lot of things described as antique.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay.
I think there's a lot of things that get described. I'm not talking about the auction.
Sure.
I'm talking about the stuff I buy. It's
Yeah.
described as an antique.
No, that's a great
Probably not
question.
necessarily antique.
That's a great question. As a matter of fact, I think do we have Wayne's class saved, Neva? If we have his class saved, I'm going to send it out to you guys. Wayne Wooten, he teaches a 3-hour block of instruction on antiques. Now, you're not going to learn everything, but you're going to, for sure, be able to define into anyone what antique means.
That just seems to get thrown around a lot.
You're right. Generally speaking, it comes down to value, age. It must have some sort of like value in our line of work. And generally, it's 100 years old. Generally speaking. Okay, so let's talk about a table that we just sold. Go ahead. And Jennifer,